begin, self-introductions. I will do this when you're at the 4-minute mark. I'm not going to cut you off, but just so you know on managing your time. During the 15-minute period for answering the questions that you've been received, I'll notify you you're at 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then I'll do this when you're at 14 minutes if you get there. So, but please, I apologize in advance for waving at you. But so if we can begin, you have 5 minutes, self-introduction, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, honorable members of the board, and those of you with a vested interest in the Community College District here at Long Beach. My name is Vivian Malaulu. I consider it a privilege to stand before all of you today. Based on my application, you have a solid understanding of my professional background. I'd like to tell you a few personal things about myself. I was born Vivian Jacqueline Ramirez in San Pedro Sula, Honduras, in a very small structure that was half of a house that had been abandoned in a barrio where I was raised. And I lived there for the first 7 years of my life. I lived there with my mom, who is the youngest of 10 children, her twin sister, one of my uncles, and my abuelita. She raised all 10 of her children alone. We had no indoor plumbing, we had limited electricity, we cooked over an outdoor fire, and we shared a community toilet with about 20 other families who all lived in the same alley that we called home. But still, my abuelita made sure everybody went to school. My mom was just a poor country girl. She moved to the big city to help abuelita find work. When my abuelita had to raise all of her children, my mom found a job as a store clerk working for a wealthy Arab family, and through them she met my biological father, who is Palestinian. News that I was on the way broke just weeks after my father left Honduras to pursue a college education in this country. They were never married, and I didn't actually meet my father until I was 13 for the first time. My mom worked very long hours as a phlebotomist in a public hospital in Honduras to send me to the best school around at the time, which was in another city. And I used to cry when we didn't have enough taxi or bus money because we didn't have a car. So I wanted to go to school, and I would cry. Excuse me, kind of nervous. When the opportunity to study and work in America knocked, my mom sacrificed everything she had and changed the trajectory of both of our lives by coming to this country. My mom worked very hard in school. She did very well at work. She met and married my stepfather, who was African American and who adopted me. And that's how I became Vivian Williams when I was 7 years old. I started second grade in America speaking absolutely no English, and within 3 months, I tested out of the ESL program. And a year later, I tested into the gifted and highly talented program. We lived in Carson, where I grew up. I attended all public schools. I took advantage of every single opportunity and program that there was. I was very active in school activities, and that inspired me to become active in the community. I was a California Girls State Delegate, an ambassador to Soka, Japan, a CIA intern, ASB president, and I was crowned homecoming queen, all within a 6-week time period. And I had straight A's. I applied and was accepted to 5 prestigious universities, but my parents couldn't afford to send me to any of them. In spite of the numerous local scholarships that I achieved, that I had been awarded, I chose the least expensive of the 5, and I worked my way through college, often working 2 or 3 jobs at a time, many times at night. And I recognize how important the value of an education is at a very young age, especially in this country. And if it were up to me, I'd be a student forever. But since I have to eat, I chose to become the next best thing, which is a teacher. I was 18 years old when I graduated from Banning High School in Wilmington, and I was 22 when I returned to teach there. In addition to my teaching career, I consistently continued to pursue my lifelong passion, which is writing. And fortunately, that has enabled me to work as a freelance writer, as a journalist, contributing to many very media outlets. About 15 years ago, I had the opportunity to become a longshore worker. No one in my family knows what a longshoreman does, and if you ask them which direction the waterfront is, they don't even know which way to point. I joke that I suffer from chronic overachiever syndrome, but thank God I have lots of energy to go with that. I'm going to skip because I'm running out of time. All of my life, I've been able to identify with multi-ethnic groups because of my very unique cultural background. I'm half Honduran, half Arab. I was raised by a black man, and then I married a Samoan. My family's here. Our family parties are like United Nations summits. It's not unusual for me to begin a sentence in English, break into Spanish halfway, and then end with a Samoan blessing. Family and education are both very important to me, which is why supporting students at this level is crucial. While some of our students are typical recent high school graduates, others are adults with families and jobs, beginning or returning to complete an education they started 2 or 3 lifetimes ago. The board has to be understanding of the needs that our distinctive population has. Traditional college academia is not for everyone. We must be proactive about including those who seek alternative goals to achieve their own American dream. I have 1 paragraph left. Sorry, I know I'm out of time.
You'll have at the end, you'll have time, hopefully, to conclude any comments you'd like to add.
Thank you.
All right. Trustee Baxter.
Yes, good evening, Vivian.
Good evening.
I'm over here. What do you see as the most important issues to be addressed district-wide in the Long Beach Community College District? And how would you approach these issues with your fellow board members?
I thought long and hard about this, and because I am on campus, I had the opportunity to speak to faculty members and students alike, and the same answer was consistent. It was just low morale. And I believe that as a board, we would need to work together to provide opportunities for the faculty and for students to experience the pride of being a Viking. And some of those opportunities include bringing them on board so that they can have be a part of the partnership that it takes to coordinate all the programs at the college level. The board must take a notable effort to ensure that district employees are valued by the employer. That would enhance productivity, and ultimately it would improve student success. If the faculty is happy is such a loose term, but when people are happy where they work, it shows in their work, and the students would be the ones to benefit. Also, there should be an active approach to offer more in terms of support and services. Some of my students today gave me a laundry list of things that they would like changed, and because we don't have time to go through each one, just the fact that they care and the fact that they're interested and they're willing to voice their opinions and to come out and share those lists and those needs that they have as students. Some are saying too many staff parking, not enough student parking. Why did it go to $2 a semester? Issues like that, I think the board should address, maybe not during a board meeting, but at a time that is more appropriate. Additionally, I think that the board has a responsibility to select a board member who is reflective of the population of this college. And I think that at least more than 50%, maybe 60% of our student population is Latino immigrant. Some of them were my high school students, and they're returning here. And I think that the board needs to be sensitive to their needs by selecting a board member who will represent them, who they can identify with, and who has and shares their story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Otto.
Good evening, Vivian.
Good evening, thank you.
How does an effective board of trustees ensure opportunities for faculty, staff, classified staff, students, community members, and other stakeholders to give their views to the board on important policy issues without seeming to be advocating for a position one way or the other?
Board members should be factual and forthright when presenting opportunities to its stakeholders, and likewise it should be informed and objective when entertaining them. The duty of the board is to serve as a platform and a liaison where everyone has an opportunity to present issues and be confident and trust that the board will evaluate and decide upon them appropriately.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Zia.
Hi, Vivian. You'll have to excuse me being emotional. Your story really touched me. Please identify a recent Board of Trustee decision that you feel strongly about. Describe how you would balance student needs, community, and other stakeholders' concerns, and your personal beliefs and values to determine how to vote on the issue.
There are a couple of issues which have been controversial. The two-tier tuition system is one of them, but the one that I'm going with is the vocational programs, the 11 programs that were cut. Initially, when I heard that the 11 programs would be cut, it upset me as a faculty member, and I understood from an administrative background why it needed to be done, but still, you don't want programs cut, especially in this day and age when students are hungry and thirsty for hands-on training and apprenticeship and internship programs. And then I thought about it, and upon careful research, understanding that a lot of those programs were just not viable and they were not sustainable, and they weren't producing the type of students that we would need in the future to prepare them. So some of the ideas that I tossed around back and forth went back to my tenure when I was career advisor at Carson High School. Many years ago, the city of Carson had a job clearinghouse in the basement of City Hall. And the job clearinghouse was for anybody in the community who can come and apply for a job. As career advisor, I went to the mayor at the time, and I went to the board, to the council members, and I asked them to help us develop a program with our Carson High School students, and we did. And we developed an internship program where if students met the requirements that we set forth for them, upon graduation, they were given a job. So rather than cutting a program or rather than getting rid of a program, what we did is we implemented something new, and we discussed alternative ideas of ways that we can put students to work. And I believe that the same thing could be done here. I also think that we should capitalize on our proximity and our relationship to the Port of Long Beach. Myself, as a longshore worker, to be able to provide opportunities in that career, in that job field. Banning High School has 4 current small learning communities that are closely related to the port. And those came from a board like this who said we need to prepare students for the future in careers in this area. We are in a very unique place, and I'm sure you all know that. Long Beach, there is no place like it. The fact that we've got the port and we've got the Long Beach Promise, we've got the relationship established, we can get our students to careers, and they don't have to be longshoring. There's 30,000 laborers that show up to work at the Port of Long Beach every day, and not all 30,000 are longshore workers. We should capitalize on that.
Student trustee, Ruth.
Hi, Vivian.
Hi.
What 2 experiences have you had in your professional or your voluntary life that you believe would assist this governance team in its deliberations?
Thank you for being a student trustee. I was a student trustee at the board of LA Unified for several years. It was quite controversial at the time. I am fortunate to have a very rich and substantial career history in various industries, all of them which would be relevant and useful on this board. If chosen, I'm certain that the professional experience which I would likely draw upon every day is a year that I spent at UCLA, Anderson School of Management, as a Reardon Fellow. We met in small groups weekly. We met as a class monthly. We developed numerous programs, raised significant funds, and addressed various concerns throughout the city of Long Beach. It was very similar to what the city of Long Beach has now with its Leadership Long Beach program. It was very similar to that as a Reardon Fellow. Those are the experiences that I would draw upon. Additionally, one of the benefits that I got from that program was the belief that networking was crucial in getting anything done anywhere, and also being able to see the big picture. And I would challenge all of you to remember networking with students, with parents, with families and communities, and also always, always look at the big picture.
Thank you. Well, you were fine on time. I will tell you that. So if you have any other things you'd like to add before we conclude the interview?
Yes, please.
And
Thank you.
by the way, you're at 7 minutes.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll go back to my closing paragraph when I close. One more experience that I would like to share with you is I was an appointed public relations commissioner for the city of Carson when I was 19 years old. I was the youngest commissioner the city of Carson had up to that point. I might still be that record holder, I'm not sure. And it was a very challenging time for the city of Carson because it was during the time that Alameda Corridor project was going up, and it was also during the time that Metro Mall was going up. And my job as a community liaison was to go out into the community. I actually worked for ASSET, which is the Alameda Corridor engineering team, and we had to go knock on people's doors all along the corridor and tell them that we were taking over their homes. And as a young 19-year-old college student, to have to break the news to somebody that their family home was going to be torn down to make room for trains moving cargo to and from the harbor. It was quite a learning experience. However, being able to sell the benefit of the Alameda Corridor or a large project like that, being able to convince the public that it was the best thing for the community, also taught me how important it is to foster good relationships with the people that you're working with, to always be honest and forthright, and to always be accessible. Likewise, Metro Mall in Carson never went up. And I also learned why people shouldn't lie, why people should tell the truth. And we had salespeople that were selling anchors and selling office space and selling mall space, and we never even brought steel in. So I learned, I watched, I saw the council, I saw my coworkers, and I remember at 19 years old having 2 projects on my desk, and it was night and day. So that was something I want to share with this board, and I think that it would be valuable to me as a board member to be able to draw upon those experiences. Thank you all for considering my candidacy. Everything in my past and currently in my present has prepared me for this appointment. If chosen, it is my duty to step up, accept the challenges that it entails. Growing up in extreme third world poverty has been a constant backdrop in my life. I never want to be poor again, and I never want anybody around me to be poor again. And when I see my students come to my classroom, they're riding their bikes, they live in an apartment with 9 other students, and they're trying their best to find a job and to get their education, I will help them. And however much I can help them in my classroom, I will help them here on this board, because ultimately our goal and everybody's goal in this room should be student success. It shouldn't be numbers, it shouldn't be money, and it shouldn't be just graduating them with a piece of paper. It should be making them productive citizens and contributors to society in the workplace, as parents, family members. My childhood has evoked a spirit in me of gratitude for everything that I have, everywhere that I have been, and everyone that I have met. It inspires me to be more, to do more, and to give more to the community of education which surrounds all of us. I truly believe that I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have the opportunities education afforded me. Education truly changed the trajectory of my life. I'm a doer. I have a heart for people and a mind for business. I'm a go-getter. I'm not afraid to stand up. I will speak. I will research. I will be cordial. I will be professional. My parents raised me right. They raised me to respect everybody. And I believe that together, all of us can work to make Long Beach City College Community District bigger and better and stronger. And I will close with my original paragraph. Did my mic turn off? There you go.
There you are.
As a trustee, I plan on channeling all of our collective energy to expand upon what the Port of Long Beach has to offer, what the City of Long Beach has to offer, what our resources in the community have to offer, and to tap into bigger and better, to move Long Beach a little further along, that we can all do together. There are organizations like the ILWU, and it's not just a labor union issue. There are other organizations, there are school districts that are looking to us to produce quality workers and students. We need to forge relationships that will create these opportunities for our students to study and work in various area industries, and that will secure a strong future for our college. Imagine the things that I've done at the high school level and the things that I continue to do with my own family and our employers. Imagine how much we can do together here at LBCC. My career as an educator, my background as a journalist, and my experience as a dock worker are all at the mercy of this board, with the hope that all of it can be used to help this district secure opportunities for our students to achieve personal and professional success. The potential for what we can do together on this board to ensure that student success is there, because the possibilities are endless, because of the connections that we have right here in Long Beach. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Vivian.
You're-
Good evening, Joan. Again, to repeat myself, 5-minute self-introduction. I will let you know when you're at 1 minute. 15-minute to the standard questions. I will give you a 5-minute, 10-minute, then 1 minute if you get to that point. So at this time, you have a 5-minute self-introduction. For the record, your name, please, and then you may begin.
Hi, my name is Joan Greenwood. Good evening, President Kellogg, Vice President Otto, and members of the board and support staff. I'm very pleased to be here this evening. I know that many of you do know me from the work I've done in my community, so in my introduction, I'd like to perhaps focus on some of the highlights of my life that I believe point out where I could be of greatest value to this board in the future. I grew up in a small town in a Boston suburb in post-World War II. And in this town, it had an area of the city known as the Flats, and that's where the immigrant population settled. So my father did not learn to speak English until he was in kindergarten, and my mother came from a family that dated back to the American Revolution. So I was brought up in a household of divergent opinions, especially political, and as the oldest child, often I had to listen to my mother and father while those boring political conventions were on television. So at a very early age, I learned there were many, many different opinions, all of which were valid, and I had better learn how to choose which ones I thought were best for me. My grandmother, as an immigrant from Lithuania, emphasized early on that I should get an education. My father, however, did not believe in sending women to college, but my mother did. And she encouraged me, as did my counselors in high school, who just assumed I was going to go. And I chose to go to a small liberal arts college located between Boston and Providence. I chose a liberal arts college, even though I knew full well I was going to major in chemistry, because my mother told me, don't major in history, major in chemistry because you'll always be able to take care of yourself. My aunt wanted me to go into finance. Despite taking me to Wall Street at the end of my freshman year, I did not decide to become an investment banker. I stuck with my chemistry because I liked the scientific method, the objectivity of it, the research, the exploration of new ideas. When I graduated from college, I replaced a person with a master's degree at my employer. And the reason for it is this college provided me the opportunity to work very closely with the faculty member who was doing research and work with some of these newfangled approaches to chemistry, these gas chromatographs, mass specs, something that you now see on our numerous crime shows on television. So I went into an emerging field, got a good job, worked hard for 3.5 years, recommended for promotion to supervisor, and a vice president came back and said, we can't make her a supervisor. Her husband won't like her traveling, and we'll just get her used to the job and she'll probably get pregnant. So fortunately, I've been taking some courses at Northeastern University at night in their master's program, and 2 upstart professors, one teaching computers and the other these newfangled instruments called chromatographs. And I took the classes from them, and they encouraged me to apply for the PhD program at that university, and they came back and said to me, oh, the established professors, you know, the organics and the theoretical ones, they don't believe in this newfangled analytical chemistry, and they also believe it's a waste of their time to teach women chemistry because they just get married. So that got me even more persistent. So these were the early events that shaped me. But I have always worked in small entrepreneurial environment with members of the board, venture capitalists, because I've been in business development, I've been in operations management, I've worked with people of every culture from the world, I've managed them, and it's because of being that early education that got me to accept listening to everyone, to mentoring people, because I found as an operations management, most conflicts arose because one person didn't really understand what the other person was saying. My husband, John Gailey, taught me to listen to everyone. My mother taught me never to judge people by appearances. Those have been the guiding principles by which I've led my life, and hopefully will serve as the platform for me to serve this esteemed body as your next trustee representing District 2.
Thank you. Trustee Baxter.
Yeah, good evening, Joan. Hi. What do you see as the most important issues to be addressed district-wide in the Long Beach Community College District, and how would you approach these issues with your fellow board members?
This was a very difficult question for me to respond because there are so many issues, and I certainly am not an expert in this field. However, what I chose as my three most important issues, the ones that I thought perhaps would be of greatest value and be of some value to this board because of my experience working in these small entrepreneurial environments where I've been responsible for both profit and loss and defending my strategic plans to corporate managers and business acquisition partners. So to me, the three most important issues that I would like to work on and apply my specialized skills really deal with our fiscal ability, first of all, to keep up with emerging technologies and best management practices for the students. Online versus classroom training. I'm a volunteer on a professional group that's developing training courses, and we've had several of these discussions as to how much of the training should be online and how much should be in the classroom. So that was number one. Number two, college readiness and remediation programs. And I think these are a very important part of the university, but it does require that we make sure that strategically there are adequate financial resources to keep these programs going and to continue to improve on them, especially College Promise. I personally believe, as my belief, that K through 18 should be all at public expense. Because we live in a more complex society. You can't get it done in 12 years. We are really putting a lot of stress and forcing students to make career path decisions much earlier than I had to. The third one is keeping students in school until graduation. I know that there's a lot of concern that at the community college level, very often a third of the students are taking more than 2 years to complete their programs. There are very good reasons for this, and some of these do have to do with additional financial resources. I worked through college, I had a full scholarship, or I wouldn't have been able to go. And I know as the only chemistry major who had a scholarship, I did work, and therefore I didn't have the time for extracurricular activities that other students had. And so that is also a very important part of the life experience that students gain. So I would make sure that as a board we had a good strategic plan with goals, and that we also worked and developed annual work plans to track and move forward to those goals, those strategic goals that are 15 to 20 years out. And to me, the foundation is having the money and the resources to carry out that mission.
Thank you.
Trustee Otto?
Joan. Evening, Joan.
Good evening.
How does an effective board of trustees ensure opportunities for faculty, students, classified staff, community members, and other stakeholders to get their views to the board on important issues without seeming to be advocating for one position or the other?
Yes, very often in sales you had to do that, especially when you were dealing with a group of faculty members who had $250,000 and they all had to agree on one piece of equipment that would satisfy them all. So basically, when I looked at this issue, there's two situations that you run into as a member of the Board of Trustees. One is the unsolicited input that you may be asked for while you are out grocery shopping, have run down the street to get some gasoline, where someone corners you and wants to try to make input to something that's important to them. My husband is the one who taught me how to deal with that situation, and he said, ask the why questions. Why is this policy important to you? What are the key points you would like to make about your position? Gee, that's a good idea. Do you think you could come down to our next Board of Trustees meeting and speak publicly to it? Oh, no? You think, my memory's not as good as it used to be. Could you jot it down and send it to as an email? The important part is your body language. There is a tendency when you are talking to people that you look at them, you agree with them, and some people will misinterpret that as your position on a particular policy. If you're a manager and you're dealing with people from many different cultures, you do have to learn to choose your words well, set the boundaries on what you're speaking, and again, be that active listener. The other situation is if it is a policy that we are under serious consideration and the president of the board has asked us to go out and speak more formally to different groups. I would recommend doing that in pairs. And again, asking the why questions, being the active listener, and sticking to preparation to ensure that you don't mislead people into believing they know what your position is. And again, reinforcing, setting the boundaries, and letting them know that you are on a fact-finding mission. So yes, it is difficult, and it does take practice, and I'm probably a little rusty, but I certainly would practice those skills a little bit more than I have had to do in the past couple of years. Because it doesn't happen as a sustainable city commissioner very often. So.
Thank you.
Trustee Zia.
Hi, Joan. Welcome.
And by the way, you're at, my apologies, you're at 6 minutes.
Oh.
You're fine. Trustee Zia?
Please identify a recent Board of Trustee decision that you feel strongly about. Describe how you would balance student needs, community, and other stakeholders' concerns, and your personal beliefs and values to determine how to vote on the issue.
This was also a very difficult question to answer. The one that I chose was one that came up more recently, and that was about the two-tier tuition pilot program that went into practice. And what I realized about that particular decision is I put myself in the place of what I was, simply a member of the community who read about it in the paper and heard about it from candidates for office. My initial reaction to it was, okay, how would I have handled it? Well, I did a little bit of research and found out it was legislation and it is a pilot program. However, my experience as an operations manager said, why was the tuition higher? If they're making better utilization of the facility by offering this course, did the tuition increase actually reflect the additional cost of keeping the campus open for those classes? Did it really get at the root cause of the problem, which was students not being able to get into required courses and graduate within the 2-year time frame? Those are all questions I wanted to ask. They were not answered in the media, so I realize now in these important policy decisions the importance of reaching out into the community with the message before the media gets a hold of it. Because I know I've been when I've been interviewed in the paper, I have noticed many times I read it and I said, I really don't think that's what I meant. So choosing the boundaries when you're speaking and avoiding it as a member of the Board of Trustees until you've been properly prepped for presenting it, and making sure that you do have all your facts straight. It could very well be that there was excellent discussion here, but again, I'm answering from the perspective of being a member of the community and just hearing the words on the street, the sound bites. But it really impressed upon me the importance of our outreach function when you become a member of the Board of Trustees.
Thank you. Next question.
Hello, John.
Hello?
What two experiences have you had in your professional and your volunteer life that you believe would assist this governance team in its deliberations?
I was a member of the board of Friends of the Los Angeles River from 2005 until 2001, and I believe President Kellogg was on the City College when the entire issue over the flood control project came up. And at that time, because I lived right next to the river, the charismatic leader of FOLAR invited me to become a member of the board. And I was very impressed by that because I thought, wow. And then I learned later it's because most people don't like to be members of boards, especially when they're in the charismatic leader stage. Believe me, once a month going up to LA and sitting through a 5-hour board meeting when you have to get up and go to work the next day is pretty tough. But I made that commitment. We fought the LACTA project, and that was the beginning of the entire river restoration program. And while I was on the board of FOLAR, since we thought we were going to bankrupt ourselves with the lawsuit against the county, we suddenly had the realization that we had to move from being a charismatic board to an institutional board. So our board retreats very much focused on that transition, how you made it, and the differences from being an institutional board to from being a charismatic board to an institutional board, and the fiduciary responsibilities that you had was excellent training, which I have now applied as a founding board member of the Wrigley Area Neighborhood Alliance, where we do a great many community building activities in District 2 and reach out to other associations within the Wrigley area. So that was one. My work experience came today, actually changed my mind about that. One of our responsibilities, the environmental consulting that we do, deals with hazardous materials, not with CEQA, NEPA, and some of future land planning. And I had a client call in yesterday in a rush for a short report on what should have been a very simple subject. My colleague, everything gets peer reviewed before it goes out, and you really do benefit from it. I knew what the client wanted me to write, but I had to stick to the facts. The facts of the case and only the facts. Now, my colleague, we do litigation support, we write expert reports. I do fact checking. When I write a 25-page, when our president wrote a 25-page report as an expert witness, I fact-checked every single sentence, and it was annotated and supported. Today, this was a simple assignment, not a lot of liability involved in it, and darned if my peer didn't come to me and say, look, you have to narrow down your focus because your words make a difference. And there are some people out there that would pick up this short report, they'd look at the words on the paper and totally misinterpret them. So go back, because 5 years from now, if some attorney has you up in the stand and has you raise your right hand and swear on that to the court that what you said is honest, that you have indeed checked your facts, you have not elaborated on them beyond what you can on the basis of the information you have. So I have to go back to work afterwards and rewrite that report. It's a short one, it's only 3 pages. Otherwise, I do 30-page reports routinely for the company. So I do have a lot of flexibility in my hours and my site. And in fact, my entire career, I don't think I've done the same thing 2 days in a row. But I've always had a flexible time schedule. Usually that meant They gave me a key, and I could go to the office after hours and work weekends. So I do have flexible time schedule. That's why I've been able to do as much as I have in the community during the past 20 years I've lived in the district.
All right, you are at 14 minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we conclude the
There's
interview?
just one thing I wanted to mention is we shape our education, and then our education shapes us. And one of the most important educational ahas I had was senior year of high school in a seminar called Utopias in Modern Literature. And we had to read Machiavelli's The Prince. And what I learned from that book was the duty of loyalty and how important it is, because that book became a very popular business management reading in the mid-1980s, and I read it again, and I said, aha, now I understand. Did I pick the wrong career? So I did take the Miller Analogy test to learn that I am an ENTJ, which someone actually asked me while I was campaigning. I wanted to know what I was. I said ENTJ, and he said, great. And what I learned from that experience was that I am a field general, not a staff general. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Joan. At this time, it is 7 o'clock. We are going to take a 5-minute break, reconvene in 5 minutes. And Warren, I have another question for you. Thank you all very much.